They say silence is golden, but why does it feel so heavy, so deafening when it finally surrounds you? Is it really silence we fear, or what it reveals about us? Picture yourself in a room, no ticking clock, no rustling papers, just silence. It doesn't creep in, it crashes, sudden, all encompassing. Do you feel the weight pressing against your chest? The growing urge to fill the room with a sound, any sound? Why does it feel so unbearable? Well, what if I told you that silence isn't empty? It's crowded, packed with your thoughts, emotions, truths, everything we've been too busy to confront. So, the question isn't why silence is so loud. The question is, can you face what it's trying to tell you? When the world gets quiet, all that's left is you and your thoughts. There's no music to drown them out, no voices to distract you. It's just the raw, unfiltered sound of your mind. And let's be honest, that's terrifying. Imagine walking into a pitch black room with a single flashlight. You shine it ahead, and there's nothing, just emptiness. But the darkness isn't passive. You feel it stretching, surrounding you, daring you to explore its edges. That's what silence does. It shows you the small part you're willing to face while reminding you of the vastness you're avoiding. Have you ever noticed how silence feels like it weighs more than sound? Like it's pressing against your skin, curling around you, holding you in place? Maybe it's not the silence itself, it's the emotions it carries: regret, loneliness, self doubt. These things don't whisper, they roar when there's nothing left to drown them out. In our world, noise is a badge of honor. Productivity hums, conversations buzz, distractions click and swipe. We equate sound with purpose, as if silence is a void to be feared rather than a space to be explored. Psychologists suggest that silence amplifies what's already in our minds. If you're at peace, it's calm. But if you're anxious, it's overwhelming. Silence is like a magnifying glass. It doesn't create new fears. It enlarges the ones already lurking in the shadows. Suddenly, the small doubts you've shoved into the corners of your mind become unavoidable. They loom, distorted and louder than ever before. Neuroscientists have found that in silence, your brain stays active, often more than when it's processing external noise. It starts connecting the dots you didn't know existed, revisiting unresolved emotions and memories. It's why silence feels less like a pause and more like a storm. In silence, you meet the gap between who you are and who you want to be. And that gap isn't just uncomfortable, it's labor. Reconciling those two selves takes effort, and silence forces you to begin. Picture this. It's midnight. You're staring at the ceiling, and the quiet feels oppressive. Every unfinished task, every fleeting failure comes rushing back. That's not silence. It's your mind pulling everything you've ignored into the spotlight. Think about it. How often do you reach for your phone the second a conversation dies down? Or turn on music when you're home alone? It's not just about filling the space, it's about avoiding the noise inside. In today's world, we carry distractions in our pockets. A notification chime, a podcast playing in the background. It's all armor against silence. Even in moments of supposed rest, we're multitasking, avoiding the stillness we secretly fear. There was a time when silence was part of the human experience. Farmers listen to the wind. Travelers sat under stars in quiet awe. Now, silence feels like a foreign language, something we've forgotten how to understand. Think about falling asleep with the TV on. It's not just about background noise, it's a barrier, a way to avoid hearing the thoughts that creep in when the day winds down. But eventually, the battery in the remote dies, the playlist ends, and silence wins. It always does. So, ask yourself, how much of your life is spent running, not from others, but from yourself? What if instead of running from silence, you faced it? Listen to it. Imagine sitting alone, no distractions. At first, it feels unbearable, like you're carrying the weight of every unsaid word and every unresolved feeling. But then, something shifts. The silence doesn't change, you do. The thoughts become clearer, the feelings less overwhelming. That's when you realize silence isn't your enemy, it's your guide. The thing we fear, silence, is also the thing that heals. It forces us to face the parts of ourselves we've buried under noise. It's where clarity begins, where the answers we've been searching for start to emerge. The surface of silence is turbulent, it's intimidating. But once you dive in, there's peace, stillness, a depth that holds the truth you've been avoiding. The truth is, silence isn't loud, it's honest. It's not deafening because it's empty, but because it's full of the things we try to ignore. When you let silence in, you let yourself in. And maybe that's the real fear, not the quiet, but the truths it uncovers about who we are, what we want, and what we've been hiding from. So, the next time silence surrounds you, don't feel it, listen. What is it saying? And more importantly, what have you been trying not to hear? Drop a comment below. What's the loudest thing silence has ever told you? Or sit with it for a moment and see if you can find the answer.